Get started. This is the DRC meeting for Montgomery County Medical Center. I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of Intake Regulatory Coordination Division. And your lead reviewer is Troy Leftwich. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. And the purpose of this meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions you might have based upon the comments that you received. I'm going to ask Troy to just do a really quick overview of some of the larger comments we might have, and then turn it over to the applicant. So go right ahead, Troy.
All right, thank you. So overall, I think you saw the series of comments. I just kind of go over the major things that I had listed or thought that may be the ones that we need to focus on the most as we kind of work through all the comments. I think one of the major ones is just the intersection here that we're asking for on Key West. We're also trying to finalize the width of Brochard Road, that width that we will be looking for. I know there's a couple of, there's a variation within the master plan recommendation, and then there's some other comments or best practices that we're looking to kind of like implement here. And that's going to dictate the building placement, or at least provide more space to push the buildings closer to the street. So we think that's going to provide some shifting that we would like to see for these buildings to be closer to the intersection. Also, with that adjustment of the buildings, there was a lot of comments in regards of how these internal plazas weren't necessarily activating towards the street. And so we were looking for more of those connections. So I think within the shifting of things, we could kind of address some of those other comments. There's also a lot of questions about some of these, how many access roads or access points that you have on these internal drives. So consolidating those, I think we'll kind of address some of these other, we'll kind of get worked out as we kind of, like I said, work with the open space concerns and then the access concerns and those things. I think one thing to kind of mention, well, let me backtrack a little. We are definitely excited to see this project come in. I think anybody that's dealt with this history of this site, this back half of the project, there was a lot of things that we've been trying to get over the years, or there was planned over the years that kind of necessarily didn't see fruition. So to actually see this side of the project come in with something, and knowing that ARE is a major stakeholder and has been implemented in the county, we're excited to see them come in and propose something on here in this time frame. So a lot of this stuff I think we can definitely work out. But like I said, we are excited that this area is coming, because I know we've been looking for Blackwell Road to be extended, and this, like I said, this grid of this whole site to kind of be established. So I think one thing to know, we are looking for everything to kind of be private roads. I think when you look at preliminary plans and stuff, there's always a question about is there a public road connection and things like that. I know a grid was being established. So as far as I know, is right now we are definitely still considering everything to be private internally. Outside of that, I think that was kind of the overall things. I know there's comments about we would like to see the surface parking lot, or understand the need for the surface parking lot. But overall, I think there's a concern just parking count in general. So we can work through all those details as along with the other ones. But I think that's the major stuff. But I'm happy to address any ones that y'all feel that are important too as well at this time.
Rebecca, do you want to say something before we turn over to the applicant?
Yeah, I just wanted to go a little bit more specific on the driveways. Blackwell Road, which is currently under permit, there's two access points. One doesn't align with the other for the garage. And so we would be looking for that to be opposite side of the driveway access. The other one is too close to the intersection with the private road. So we look for that to actually come off the existing private road. And then you have two new access points, I think, along Brochard, and that we would be looking for those to be combined and be eliminated if possible, but only have one at a maximum. So.
Hey, Rebecca, this is Pat with MHG. Just going back comment, can you clarify on Blackwell Road, you mentioned the proximity. Was that in relation to the existing curb cuts?
No,
there's three existing ones there today, I think.
Okay, so Blackwell Road is under permit right now.
Uh-huh.
The portion that's under permit. And you have, I guess if you zoom in, where it says 9601, there's that access point right there that is really close to the private street. I don't know if I can't request control. So that one is too close to the intersect to Blackwell in relation to the private street. So we would look for that to come off of the existing private road. So yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
that's an existing back of house access to that facility, though, I believe.
It's a loading dock.
Yeah.
Okay, it needs to be reconfigured because it's too close to the intersection with the private road.
Right, but that's all existing. I guess is what I'm saying is that the private road's there today, and so is that. I'm not sure we can remove it.
But Blackwell doesn't continue down to the left, right?
No, but it stops right there. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, it stops up right here.
Yeah, so we would be looking for you to fix that access point.
Okay. We'll digest that, but you know that was that very area was the site of a recent site plan amendment to ensure that loading area worked in the current configuration. So there was time and effort spent.
How recent?
6 months.
And it was a site plan?
Yes,
Okay, so that's why DOT didn't review it.
correct.
Yeah. We can talk internally with DPS. The garage access point on Blackwell does need to be moved.
Right there where
Yeah.
Troy is showing it. Okay.
Yes. And then
And-
the other two, we'd like to eliminate at a minimum at least one of those access points.
Okay. So those will be discussion points that we'll have with you, but thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Okay. There's only two other things. Your sidewalk is not along the front. It's angular. So we'll be looking for you to actually provide sidewalk along the frontage. And then I don't think that there's supposed to be separated bike lanes along the road. And so we'd be looking for you to provide that cross section and provide that and install them at this point.
Rebecca,
On
with
Brochard?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I understand. So you're asking me to upgrade Brochard on my, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I understand. We'll take it under advisement.
Rebecca, so we can understand the impacts of that. With the introduction of bike lanes on Brochard, is the thinking that the road gets widened, or is it thinking that the travel lane gets removed?
It would be that you'd be working from face of curb because we need both of those lanes for the BRT.
So it'd be a widening of the section, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we'd have to widen the road and then go back and do an easement to give away property back on the other side, but also move the buildings closer to it and then have no access to my garage. Okay, well, that's fine. Why don't we just go through some?
Can you guys hear me? This is Chris Van Austin. So we did develop we're in the near end stage of developing a cross section for this road. So long story short, we think we can actually narrow it from what is even proposed, despite having the bike lanes and everything. So we have narrowed it down. So we don't really think that's going to be an issue with both moving the buildings forward and getting all the facilities in there.
Yeah, my biggest, the reason I asked, one of the biggest concerns is there's a bunch of underground utilities behind the existing curb. There's fiber and things like that. So widening the road, obviously, you can imagine that creates a big challenge.
Yeah, long story short, we're looking to not move that curb line.
Oh, okay. So you'd stay within okay, that's a little different. Well, if you could share that section so we can study it, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Do that.
DOT needs to see it first before they can share it. So.
Okay.
So Christina, can we turn over to the applicant now, or that was a
Go
little?
right ahead, Patrick.
Thank you. So for the record, Patrick Kearney, I'm an attorney at Lurch, Early and Brewer, representing Alexander Real Estate Equities in the project that you have before us. Appreciate the effort and the comments that have gone into the initial review, and look forward to working with the team to resolving and in some cases working through challenging comments that make the project more challenging and difficult. So we know that that will happen and look forward to that. For today, we have some initial comments, I think, by Bill DePippo, and really only a few clarifying questions that we have for the overall assembly of agencies. So let me start with Bill and then get into the few questions that we have.
Thank you guys for taking a look at this with us. Obviously, we've been developing and partnering over the last 5 years with some amazing projects on this. When we were able to purchase this land, we really have taken a liking to, the opportunities that it provides us right now. We'd be tone deaf if we didn't know what's going on in the economy right now. So our ability to pivot and build quickly and put things in place to hit market demand is actually very, very important. So on the master planning side, it's really important for us to have these conversations and go through. So I look forward to working with you guys throughout. So, I think, some of the comments and some of the things that we've been working on for the past, we're not Hopkins at all. So we have a different view of this area. Adventist is putting together a master site plan on the other side. And again, we would be remiss if we didn't think about how that's going to affect our property and how that property actually lives and breathes and how we facilitate all this. The 3 buildings that are there, actually all 5 buildings, 2 of them aren't ours. They're fully occupied. That's a loading dock. We spent, millions of dollars to make sure that that works with the Blackwell Road extension in going through. I can't change the buildings. I can't change the way that they're faced. They're actually faced inboard. So we've taken a lot of time and effort to really, how do we activate this area between Key West and Brochard. That lot in and of itself is a topographical challenge. And as Pat indicated, the amount of infrastructure that runs along Brochard and Key West, land north-south, it really does dictate a lot. We also have turning radiuses, and these are not office buildings. These are not commercial. We're not putting a subway in. We're not, this is not commercial, traditional office buildings where we're just going to densify the area. These are purpose-built lab and office buildings, technical office, and they require a lot of loading dock clearances, specialized clearances, FDA regulations, and so on. So we're very attuned to that. The parking, the way we have it listed, is based on overall growth in the full build out of the site over time. So, we appreciate your comments. So I guess we'll go through your comments. A lot of them, from our perspective, will help us gauge how we want to move forward and go through. So I'll leave it up to the team to kind of work through some of the specific items that we had questions. But, on an overall perspective, we're really excited about this property. We know the capabilities of it. We invested in it on purpose. This will bring our holdings to a little over 2.5 million square feet just in and around Medical Center Drive proper. So, for us, this is a big deal. So understanding some of the pinch points, but also living there for the past 20 years and really understanding the market of the Medical Center Drive, the ebbs and flows of traffic patterns, people, pedestrian use, all of that kind of stuff. I think, there's probably no better landholder than us and Adventist on that. And we've been doing it for so long that we really do have our ear to the market. So some of the comments, for us, need to be taken into predictable outcomes, so we can respond appropriately. So I'll let the rest of the team go, but thanks again for your time this morning.
Thank you, Bill. I think one of the first questions, and Pat LeVay, you might help supplement this if you could. There was a comment about a building C offsite improvements that were required and had not been fulfilled. I forget who that comment came from, but we just wanted to understand that better so we're on the same page.
Yeah, that might have come from me, but it's the prior preliminary plan amendment had a series of offsite improvements, particularly turning lanes throughout that area. I don't see that having been done, so I just want to see what the status is.
Okay. Oh, I
So-
thought there was,
That my understanding that what that's
Yeah.
part of. So we
Yeah.
need- we are.
Let me. I'll jump in a little bit on that. So you're coming in. This is an amended plan, and the thought is that this will supersede all the prior approvals. But we also have entitlements or things that were established with that C amendment that we just need to figure out, walk through, and have that discussion of are we doing them? Are we not doing them? Are we modifying them to that extent? So that comment, that's where that comment is coming from, to kind of just put you, to let you know, like, hey, we are looking at this from an amended standpoint as well. But you are, like I said, setting up a new series of entitlements as well. So that's kind of what the kind of like, we are looking at the prior ones. And it's also the B amendment too, because the history of the site is that the C amendment, a lot of the stuff in the C amendment was never implemented. And you're already doing it. Like Blackwell Road was part of the C amendment in regards of having to do it. So it's just more so just looking at it. We're looking at it. And so like, more so don't be surprised if some of those things are, we're looking at those to be improved to some extent. So.
Yeah, I think that the question maybe is, with the C amendment, that those improvements were predicated on that development that didn't happen. And now we have a new development coming in and we're subject to LATR in its current format, where the use is, I guess, exempt from LATR improvements. So we'll have to have that discussion. And we also need to look on our end and see, what, if anything, was done about that. Was there like a fee in lieu payment made? We haven't done that research yet to see what Hopkins may have done following the C amendment.
I don't think there's any fee in lieu.
Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, and that was my question is, are you guys involved in the whole Great Seneca improvements, or is that different group?
yeah, that is Alexander Real Estate Equities. Yes.
Okay, so that's part of it. So some of the stuff, we know, I saw some of the stuff was done recently. So I think, Chris, maybe we get together and look at what the conditions are and see what was done and what we need to have them do.
Yeah, we'll meet on that.
Okay. Thank that Troy and Chris and Rebecca, that at least answers the question. So we understand better your perspective there. The related question is, and Rebecca just mentioned Blackwell Road, that's already permitted, and yet there are any number of changes that are being requested as part of the sketch and preliminary plan amendment. And so it's a little confusing to us that we think that Blackwell Road is fully baked, and yet there are other bites of the apple that seem to be taken as part of this process. So if there's any explanation for that, that would be great. Otherwise, I think we're just going to plow forward with the current approval.
Yeah, I would hold off on that. What we're trying to do here, and as long as it's not, under construction, we're in for the review. We have new standards with the complete streets, so we're just trying to make sure that what actually gets built is what we want. We know that we have some prior recommendations that one of the, even my comments had since changed, where the translation for this road is to be a downtown boulevard. We now think that's going to be a downtown street. So we're trying to, again, tighten that road up, remove some travel lanes, and double down on bike and pedestrian improvements. So we're hoping that's not going to be a significant change, but we do want to see, again, particularly the bike and pedestrian improvements.
I understand, but the message you just conveyed is that it's a fluid process, and applicants don't like fluidity, especially when we agreed in this case to, as part of an ownership plat process, an unprecedented agreement to build Blackwell, which is not part of the ownership plat process. So that's several years in the making, and we relied on it, and it seems a little challenging to shift that process now, but we'll work through it with you. But again, I just want to reiterate to the team that these things don't happen in a vacuum, and we got to work through it together in reasonable ways. So we look forward to that. The other question, I think, is from Ewing Cole as it relates to the comments about having buildings closer to Brochard and Key West, and at the same time wanting to have better activity and adjacency to the internal roads. And so let me kind of pass that to you and Cole to elaborate on the clarification that we're looking for there.
Patrick, I think that was my question, right?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of references on the master plan that say, you know, we're trying to get all the buildings to edge Brochard, but then there are also several comments that recommended that the buildings be closer to the north-south internal spine and basically disconnect from Brochard. So I'm just looking for a little bit more clarification, you know, from a master plan standpoint right now, you know, buildings 2 and building 1 almost is basically up to the edge of where we can build with all the setbacks and easements. But then there were those comments that say, you know, building 2 should be brought closer to the internal north-south circulation business street.
Yeah, this is Natasha. I'm an urban designer of Mid-County. I can clarify on the comments related to north-south internal road. So what we would like to see is the activation around the buildings. Like the way that you guys are proposing, there is no activation along the public road, Key West, Brochard, nor there is no activation along the internal road. So somehow we need to make this road being more pedestrian friendly. Like the internal road, the way that it's shown is just act as a service road to get to the parking garage and the loading dock, the loading area under the building 1. So we would like to see like activation along that road, like the location of the lobbies coming off of those roads will help activate the area. So those are some of the comments that we have. And then as far as like frontage along Brochard and Key West, like as the rendering are suggesting, it's going to be all with like a garage walls and no activation use along those frontages as well. So we would like to see more like artistic and architectural elements and some active uses along those frontages.
But to elaborate on that, the building placements themselves along Brochard was acceptable, or was that okay?
Yeah, we didn't have any comments as far as like the placement because like our transportation folks are working on that intersection or that the sections through the Brochard. So we can work through those. But what we would like to see as far as like the urban design aspect is pedestrian activation on the ground floor.
Okay, thanks.
And I think the building placement came into question, or the opportunity for moving the building placement was because we knew that the section was going to shift in based on, because I think y'all showed at the 150, and I think we had a smaller section, so that's where that piece came in.
So I have a further question on this. The way that street was described, the internal street, is not quite right. We have the lobbies are not opening to it because they're along Brochard, right? So what we have there is a series of exterior outdoor spaces that are meant to be activated year round.
So unfortunately, you froze up on us at the inopportune time.
For the market.
So hey, Saul, you froze up there for a second. I don't know
functions.
if
Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, that there's the whole area, the plaza, the buildings are facing into the lake, and the whole idea is to activate that in a series of exterior programs and connect that to the lake area through a series of paths. So and given the fact that we're locating the building where they are, there's a limit as to what we can do. We also have the building entrances coming along that space, so I'm not so sure how much further we can activate that.
Yeah, one thing I would like to also add is like that drop-off driveway that you have is kind of like a redundant because you already have a service road or that internal road that, and then you have like another drop-off. So 2 parallel road, we thought that is kind of redundant and it kind of like push the pedestrian activation more outward. So if there is a way to create some sort of like a drop-off loop that helps the lobbies and entryway coming closer to the internal street to help activating the road, I think that would be ideal. But then on the other side, we know that you guys are putting underground parking and semi-underground. So like we have to work through those details as well. I'm talking about the garage under building 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's an effort to avoid the endless parking lots that would make any development nowadays an eyesore. So
I think that's it from our team. I apologize for my voice, first and foremost. I know it's probably annoying to hear, but we do appreciate this time. Is anything more from staff? I know there's a kind of a timeline that we're focusing on here that's worth repeating.
No, I think the overall comments, I think, you know, we can, that part of it, I think like right now it's just more so getting everybody scheduled for the meetings. I think, you know, having a transportation meeting is probably the priority. And then following up with a urban design meeting, or have them kind of happening within a couple of days apart. If not, you know, just working with your schedule. 'Cause I know we got the holidays and things like that. So getting everybody on the same page and getting those on the books as soon as possible so that you can be, you know, keeping tight on the resubmit.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Here is WSC. I don't know if you have any question, but I want to give you heads up about the capacity of from the sewer, from the 2 buildings, like the lab and another 2 buildings in the north side. We are doing right now the HPA, the hydraulic analysis, and we are seeing that you will not have capacity, so you will need to do some upgrades in the system.
That wasn't in the comments, right? So that's late breaking.
No, that is you're doing, like, it's application from hydraulic analysis, not part of this. You did it through WSC, but I want to give you the heads up now that you have all the team there. And another thing is, like, in another projects that we have before, for labs and everything, you need to be aware that when you are applying for the permits, you will need to do a industrial waste application, and that sometimes take time because you are doing labs and science building. So that is two heads up, because I want to tell you right now, because then when the time passes and you want to get everything to build, that's 2 things will hold up the project. So,
yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I guess as part of the HPA comments that we'll eventually get, you'll send us the segments that are in question of the sewer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah.
And this is Kristen. Also, one final note. Somewhere buried in my comments, there's a link to our recent protected intersection design checklist. So we need to have that completed for all the proposed intersections that are part of this application. So it's a checklist that you go one by one for each intersection, just making sure that we comply with all of our standards. So particularly that's going to be talking about pedestrian crossings, turning radii, et cetera. So just want to make sure that's there. I can send a link as well, because I know that E-plans and links are wonky, but I can send the actual file itself as well.
Yeah, I actually would appreciate that, Chris.
I just have to ask Chris, because I thought I heard through the grapevine that was a requirement that was coming at the beginning of 23. We're going to be subject to that requirement.
Yeah, so I expect this to continue at this point into 2023. So just giving a heads up, we'll need that. So the sooner the better.
I thought the question was whether it applies in 2023. You said continue into 2023.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is that what I had heard through industry folk were that it was going to be a requirement for new applications starting in January 23. You know, obviously, if that's the official policy, we would prefer to follow that. So, at any rate. But
I'll
I
circle
think,
back on the exact, what exactly when we're gonna be starting that, but my understanding is that we would be starting that in 2023. So I don't know if.
Just need the effective date.
Yeah, so.
yeah, whether it's new applications or existing, I guess you could just let us know.
Yeah, I'll circle back on that.
But regardless, I'd like to see that checklist. So thank you.
It's lengthy.
Since we'll be dealing with it in this project or other projects. So got it. Okay. I think that's it from our end. Any closing remarks, Christina?
No, do you think you have clear direction, Patrick? I mean, there's a lot going on here.
There is a lot going on. We have to kind of break it into its component parts and start dealing with transportation first, as Troy suggested, probably, and then work our way through. But we'll get through it together and know that we'll be able to come up with something that is real and active in that area.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
DRC meeting for 7126 Wisconsin Avenue. I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And your lead reviewer today is Adam Bossy. The purpose of this meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions you might have based upon the comments you received. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed, and I'm going to ask Adam just to maybe highlight any of the major issues that we should discuss, and then really this is the applicant's meeting. So go right ahead, Adam.
All right, thanks, Christina. So just very quickly, a summary of key issues was emailed to the applicant last Friday. There were really 3 major issues with a couple bullets under them. There were 3 overarching issues, one having to do with the incentive height. I believe we've already set up a separate meeting to discuss that. The second point had to do with just getting some more clarification regarding the short-term rental hotel units. And third point under that had to do with just getting some more clarification regarding the sketch plan amendment, really just trying to separate out this proposal from the larger project that was approved under that. There were a couple environmental comments where the green area was deficient, specimen tree variance is needed. And as far as site design, we'd really like to see the plan submitted that the DAP reviewed back in August. And I think we have an issue with truncation to talk about at the southeast corner of the site. Those were staff's major issues, but we'll turn it over to the applicant to let you pick up the discussion.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate the
Hi.
comments. Oh, there's Heather. Go ahead, Heather.
Yep, no, I was going to say I'm on the Long Island Railroad with my family, so I will let our team take it over, but I am listening in. So thanks, everyone.
I was going to say Heather's en route but calling in mobily, so I don't know how much she'll be talking, but she's out there. Adam, thanks for the quick rundown. We can touch on a couple of those, and we had a few extra questions that we wanted to ask and talk a little about with the group while we're here. So appreciate everybody's input on this one and understanding, being respectful of everybody's time. I think we're just going to kind of get into it here a little bit. Some of the higher level comments you touched on, the justification for conforming with the sector plan. Adam, as you said, we do have an upcoming meeting to just go into more detail about that, and then we'll provide some additional justification in our report. The short-term rental hotel unit question came up. We have been in coordination with DHCA and the county regarding this. The MPDU requirements, we are calculating those as if they were residential units. So, taking some of that off of the table, the total MPDU count will be calculated as if all units are residential. And then we'll work through the nuances of the short-term rental hotel type units with you in that upcoming meeting. And then understanding it's a very complicated package with the previous sketch plan, I think it'll be justified to have an additional conversation in person to walk through the various steps. This application specifically, just high level, is only modifying things on the west side of Wisconsin Avenue, nothing on the east side. So there's lots of comments in the package trying to request more clarification on that. So we'll do our best to highlight those with some notes and maybe color coding a few things, but we'll talk through that with you too to make sure staff's getting what they need to be able to differentiate between the west side, east side, and what's being changed. As far as the next group, the environmental components, understanding there was some comments relating to the green area provided and how we're meeting the sector plan requirements. There's a lot of things going on that are being requested of the site as far as amenity space and then the mechanical type things with stormwater management and our ability to provide green space. So I think we would like to have a more in-depth conversation about the streetscape, the frontage, and the amenities and the areas that we're able to do those in and how that relates back to the green area requirement. So this will be a follow-up conversation with staff so we can dive into a little bit more detail with it if that's okay. And then similarly with the specimen tree variance, noting that we need to provide the documentation for that. I just want to call out this tree is internal to the site. It's directly adjacent to the corner of the building and poor condition based on the improved NRI. I think there's a trunk fracture and some other things. So we will be providing the documentation for that removal of that specimen tree, and then we can discuss mitigation for it. The final group of things, and we'll get to our questions here in a minute. We'll get somebody else talking other than me. The latest architecture plans is just an iterative process. We'll make sure we provide all the latest DAP and architecture sheets that were reviewed with the DAP with this next upload. And then the truncation is kind of one of the bigger ones. That's a really important corner on Miller and Wisconsin. Would like to understand more about the requirement for the truncation at this intersection. Previously, with the early iteration with plans, comments were made to only provide a truncation on Bethesda in Wisconsin and not on Miller. And then looking at the property directly to our south, when that was developed, they did not provide a truncation either. So we're kind of mirroring what was done on the south side of Miller Avenue. The proposed street sections are providing a significantly improved corner with a lot more visibility anyways. So would like to understand a little bit more about the need for the truncation there and if this was something that we potentially could request relief from.
This is Katie Mancrini with Planning. I'm here mostly to support MCDOT with this comment. So if Billy Whalen or Rebecca Torma is on, I would like them to speak to it because I think we just want to make sure that we're addressing our code requirements and giving, the appropriate visibility for that area. One of the concerns that I have is that traffic traveling southbound on Wisconsin Avenue isn't regulated by a signal here. And so they really do need to have good visibility both coming into the site, but then also leaving Miller Avenue, turning south. You need to be able to see cars as they're approaching a right turn. So MCDOT.
Yeah, this is Billy Whalen. I have the same comments as Katie. And also the truncation to the north wasn't drawn correctly. I think it was labeled as 25 feet, but it's supposed to be 25 feet from where the northbound line, if you extend it, and the eastbound line, 25 feet from either side from where they intersect. And I think there was a concept plan for this, but I don't know why the truncation wasn't shown properly on those either. So it's just standard truncation to
hear you about the
25 feet from the intersection point.
Yep, we'll get the northern one cleaned up. That's just a drawing thing. We can get that sketched in there. The requirement for the southern one, it impacts the corner of the building and the column that holds up that point. As far as visibility goes, our face of building will be further back than what's there today. So we're actually making visibility better than it's been operating in. And this is something that if we want to have a more in-depth conversation offline, we can take it off, with a follow-up meeting. We would like to talk more depth about that one, and if it's truly necessary. Again, we're kind of matching the condition on the other side of the street, and we're improving the sight lines with the new dedication and setback requirements for the building. So if it's purely just for a sight distance thing, I think we're making things better, and there's adequate sight distance based on the intersection. And that we can update the drafting of the 25-foot truncation on Bethesda and Wisconsin to get that drawn correctly. So if it's acceptable, maybe let's coordinate a follow-up call on that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Go through a little bit more. That'll kind of go into some other comments about required PUEs, door swings. We'll note those in a second, but I think we'll have to have a conversation about everything that's going on in the right of way, so we can tackle all of this at the same time. A couple other things that popped up going through the comments that we just wanted to highlight. The bike room, there are a couple comments regarding street access and access from Bethesda Ave. I think the bike room is one that we'll need to talk about some. We do have access through the building. There's a corridor that goes around into the bike room. There's a grade condition that we're fighting along Miller where we can't have a direct access straight into the bike room because of the grade changes that we're making up through the block. So we'd like to maintain our current access point, which is through a door that's slightly off of where the bike room is. You can just go through a corridor into the building to get to the bike room.
This is Grace. That was one of our comments. I just have a follow-up question. So the comment was for one, usability, but also activating Miller Avenue and having a direct door seemed to make more sense. And so just, would there be able to be, we had this comment on another project that had a similar topography issue and they were able to add a step inside with a runnel. And I was wondering if you looked into that option perhaps here for dealing with the grade?
Is Andy, I think Andy's on the call here. Andy, can you chime in on the internal workings of the bike room?
Yeah, I mean, I think, hey, this is Andy Czechowski with SKNI. I think it's really competing interests. I mean, it's the lobby space. I mean, the ground floor plan of this building is not incredibly large, and we're trying to reserve a lot for retail, and then the remainder for the lobby amenities on the ground floor. So I think initially we were trying to split the bike rooms, you know, some on the first floor, some on the first level of the garage, and just so that a majority of the amenity space on the ground floor was not the bike room. And I think adding stairs, runnels, it just eats up a lot more valuable ground floor square footage on the first floor. So we were trying to reserve, I mean, the amenities are not designed yet, but, you know, we were trying to reserve room for the lobby, leasing, mail room, package room, fitness, et cetera, on this ground floor. So the bike room takes up a fair amount of space, and adding stairs and whatnot, just we'll lose bike storage spaces, the racks, by doing that. And so we'll have to migrate maybe more to the basement.
On, I guess, a similar token, I think the other design comment on Miller Avenue was to see if the windows for the lobby area could be operable. So another way to make that Miller Avenue street more activated, if not the bike door, could you look into doing the operable windows?
I'll jump in. I think the operable windows is something that we need to discuss internally a little bit more. It's a difficult ask in that we don't know who the end tenants are at this point in time. So what commitments we can make now versus later. You know, once we get the actual tenants in those spaces, they'll be following their own building permits. I just saw Josh unmute, so he might have some comments on this one.
So sorry, just a clarifying question, along Miller or along Bethesda?
Along Miller, yeah. So I mean, I understand the tenant space for along the other frontage, but this is specific to the lobby area.
Yeah, so we would need to look at the space planning a little bit more. It depends on what the use is going to be there. For example, if it was a fitness center, then that may be something that worked well with the fitness center. But if we only have mailroom and you know, office space for our property management team and a lobby, that would probably not be the best treatment of that facade based on the use that's on the ground floor. So let us talk about it a little bit more internally and get back to you.
Thank you.
Next comment here, there's 4 more, and then we can talk schedule. One of the comments was to request if we could align the driveways across Miller, our garage, our loading access, lining up with the alley straight across Miller. Again, I think we looked at it, the complications with the internal workings of the building and how things lay out kind of preclude us to move that. It starts to fall kind of centered into the building. So certain rooms and spaces break down in the attempt to do that. So with the main garage access for people coming to park in the building off of Bethesda, we were looking to keep the loading dock where it was. The other reason for placing it there was from prior conversations with staff, and feedback was to have it located as far away from the intersection at Wisconsin Avenue as possible. So Miller is one of those streets a lot of people just, it's for loading. So the idea is to get those vehicles as far from Wisconsin Avenue as possible to then back into those loading areas.
Okay, this is Billy Whalen from DOT. Yeah, could you provide truck turning movements with the next submittal then?
Yes, sir. They were there were turning movements in there. I'm happy to send them to you. If you don't have, I don't know what access people have to different folders, but we can certainly get those to you. Basically,
okay.
pull down Miller and you back into the space. So I'll make sure you have those with this next go around, and we can talk details if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Sir. There was one comment that just said follow Bethesda streetscapes. Looking for a little clarification on if you thought we were deficient in one area or had something specific you wanted us to focus in on. I wasn't sure who made that comment.
Yeah, Matt, that was my comment. This is Sam over at DPS.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to have a general note on the plan to show that that you are following full scope of Bethesda streetscaping standards, and that includes pavement, like landscaping, and any sort of furniture and anything you're doing within the frontages are conforming to the guideline.
Understand. Thanks for clarification. We'll get with the team to craft a note along those lines.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's see. We talked about the operable windows, and then there was a comment about the energy model. I think it's just a request for some additional information, and that we'll be able to forward that to you and provide it with this next submission. Team, just going through our notes from our prep call. I don't think, did I miss any of the follow-up items we wanted to hit? And then we'll talk schedules here in a second. Hearing no comments.
I guess,
Yeah.
sorry, can you hear me? This is Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to say in terms of follow-up meetings, I think we were hoping, Adam, to tag team the, I guess, the environmental green cover comment with the MNC PPC meeting we already have set up, which I think is December 5th, just for sort of convenience if Saquon is available, that we could do the two of those at the same time. Does that make sense?
I think so. We'll see if we can make that happen.
Yeah. And then can you help us coordinate the follow-up meeting with regard to, sort of right-of-way issues, truncation issues, I think TEPCO PUE. I know oftentimes when we try to coordinate a bunch of agencies, Park and Planning can kind of take the lead on wrangling everyone. So are you able to help with setting that up too?
Yep, happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Heather. Adam, thanks for helping coordinate. So kind of tracking with that, getting these follow-up meetings scheduled. It's difficult with the holidays, I understand, but we are trying to get these scheduled as quickly as possible. Our next submission deadline, kind of tracking the calendar schedule, is December 7th. Depending on how quickly we can get these meetings scheduled, we'd like to be able to get responses on these few items to address our plans to get packaged back down to you prior to the 7th. So, Adam, if there's anything we can do to help facilitate getting these things set up, or if you can just give us an update once you get things coordinated, we'll get some dates set and get these things calendared.
So I think where we have most of the folks on the phone, I'm going to ask you to keep your eye on your email. And after this meeting, I'm going to go check people's schedules as far as I can here and follow up with our agency friends and yourselves and look to try to pin down at least a time or two to hold today and look to pen something in. Hopefully before we all go eat turkey.
Fantastic. Appreciate the help and everybody's input working through this one. This is a complicated site, but happy to see it moving and getting where it needs to go. So I'll leave it with that. Josh, I don't know if you have any remarks or somebody else wants to jump in.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we
Heather,
appreciate the candid feedback. So thank you.
And hey guys, can you hear? This is Heather.
Yes.
Hey, sorry about that. Just one other thing on schedule and just looking, as you guys know me, just looking far out. I believe that assuming we hold the December 7th resubmission date, that the next round of agency comments are due December 20th, and then our resubmission is due December 27th. And I know obviously that's a kind of crazy time of year for a lot of folks being out. So I don't know that there's a solution to where we want to be in terms of those dates right now. And a lot of it, I think, probably depends on getting these follow-up meetings set up for us to make the resubmission December 7th. But again, just given the coming holiday period, just sort of wanted to let folks know that we're eyeing that in terms of, what may happen with the dates there.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. And yeah, just to hit on some of those key dates, you already mentioned your first resubmittal date would be December 7th. Final resubmittal date would be December 27th. This would be working toward a March 2nd, 2023 planning board date. And we'd look to have the staff report posted, February 20th. So looking that far out at this point.
Yeah. And I think probably the follow-up meetings will largely dictate exactly what happens. Probably give or so a week within there.
Right. So I'll try to follow up with this group, like I said, hopefully this afternoon, and we'll look to pin something down for as soon as we can.
Sounds great. Thanks for your help in coordinating.
Great.
That's what we got. Staff, I don't know if you have anything else for us, or we're here for the next 10 minutes if you need it.
I think we're good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Take care.
Thank you.